One of my childhood homes had a balcony that was attached to both my mother's room and mine, via big glass doors in each of our rooms. Next to the balcony were two trees, one of which I often used to climb up and down the balcony. One night, when my mother and brother went home, I think I was around 13 at the time, I was reading a book while tucked in my bed with my very dim reading light on, when I heard what sounded like something moving in between the trees outside. At first, this didn't worry me, as possums and bats were common in our area. Now I had thin curtains on the glass doors that separated my room and the balcony. The doors faced out towards the street, where the street light was always visible through my curtains. Shortly after hearing the tree rustling noises, I see a shadow slowly moving past the doors, at which point I immediately turn off my reading light and freeze like a deer in headlights. The shadow was tall, so it definitely couldn't have been one of the neighbor's kids. It wasn't my 5 foot tall mother either. The person moved slowly, creeping as if they were trying not to be noticed. They wouldn't likely be able to see into my room, but I could see them, thanks to the street light behind them. They moved past my door, out of sight. I sat there, unable to move or even think about what to do, other than be absolutely still. That is, until I heard another sound. The sound of someone trying to open the glass door, my mom's door to the balcony. I didn't know if she had locked them or not, but I wasn't taking any chances. I moved as quickly and as silently as I could to my bedroom door and locked it. I listened to what the person was doing now. They were still jiggling the glass door, but fortunately enough, it sounded like the doors weren't opening. I felt relief. This person couldn't get in, surely. All I had to do was wait for them to realize that, and hopefully they would leave. I heard the light footsteps move back along the balcony towards my set of glass doors, until I saw the shadow stop directly in front of them. Again, I froze. He surely couldn't see me. He couldn't have known that I could see him. I saw a shadow of a hand reach out to my door's handle, and my heart stopped. Questions started flooding my head. Like, had I actually locked these doors myself today? I was out earlier. What if I forgot? The seconds leading up to him grabbing the handle felt like eternity. But thankfully, when this person tried to open the door, it did not open. It was locked. I sighed in relief, to a point where I could worry that he might have heard it. After this, he began pacing the length of the balcony. I didn't have a mobile, and the landline was at the other end of the house, but I was scared to take my eyes off him. I was silently crying and praying they would just leave. Then I heard him stop moving, and what happens next still freaks me out when I think about it.
I could just break the glass,
Before I could even process this, I saw car headlights turn around the corner of my street and stop at our property gate. My mom was home. The person on the balcony moved out of sight before I heard a loud thump as they jumped off the balcony. As my mom opened the house door, I was hysterical and barely coherent in telling her what happened. Eventually, I told her what happened and she called the cops. They never found or caught the guy, but a neighbor reported a truck in the street that matched the description of a truck that had been reported recently for attempted child abductions near my school. I am older now and have since gotten my own place. I still have fears of being left alone at night, but I have since gotten a self-defense firearm and attend self-defense classes. Call me paranoid, but we lived in a fucked up world out there. When I was younger, I lived on an estate of houses that backed into a huge field where many people walked their dogs. It was even used as a cut-through to the next neighborhood, which would take approximately 25 minutes to walk through. When I was about 13, my neighbor and I decided to camp out in my back garden for the night, which apart from a 6-foot wooden fence, was completely open to the field, with 20 trees around the fence. Seeing as we were into action man figures at the time, we decided we would make a tent a hideout. So we got together some branches and one of those army nets to put over the tent to make it a bit stealthier. We also put the tent in the corner of the back garden, which had a small roof over it, which made it very dark once the sun went down. We did the usual thing, ate loads of crisps and sweets before we decided to try and get some sleep in our well-hidden super dark tent. Around 4 a.m., I woke up to the sound of someone landing, and then walking on some small stones. I then realized that below the fence, my mom and dad had decorated some gravel and flower pots. At first, I thought it was our cat, but it was far too loud to be such a small animal. I slowly sat up, trying not to make too much noise from my sleeping bag. Then I heard it again. I once again tried to make my way to the front of the tent silently and looked through the zipper. About 10 feet away from us, there were two guys dressed in all black, crouching under the window sill of the kitchen, talking to each other. I immediately froze, and I had no idea what to do. They proceeded to creep closer to us, looking for more windows or maybe an entrance. Because we were in the corner of the garden, we were quite close to the path that led down to the side of the house, where there was a door into the adjoining garage. I heard them talking quite clearly, as now they were less than 5 feet away from me and my friend, who was still asleep. They were talking about being unseen and just taking whatever they could find in the garage, instead of breaking into the house and disturbing everyone. I had no idea what to do, so I rang the house phone, which was pretty loud, and waited for someone to answer. It took a while, as it was still very early. As soon as the phone rang, the two people bolted to the fence and hopped over. My dad then answered, and I whispered for him to get out ASAP with a bat or something. Nothing happened in the end, but I'm glad my friend slept silently that night. This story is not exactly a home invasion story, but it's a bit close, so here it is. The story takes place in 1977. My brother was little at the time and had been at a friend's house. I don't remember what the occasion was, but my parents were picking him up. It was late at night, around winter. My parents pick my brother up, load him into their car, and start driving home. As they are leaving the neighborhood to get into the main road, they see a man come out of the woods with a shotgun and get into his van on the side of the road. Now, the area I grew up in was suburban, but the folks can be rather redneck. Seeing someone come out of the woods with a shotgun is worrisome, but usually just means it was a poacher. Dad just keeps driving. The man gets into his car and follows my parents into the main road. Still nothing to be worried about. They make a few turns on the way home, and it becomes increasingly obvious that the van was following them. They pull into the housing plan we lived in, which was mostly construction. The van pulls into the plan behind them. At the time, our house was the only finished occupied house on our little cul-de-sac. The street lights hadn't been turned on yet. The van pulls into our driveway behind my dad. Dad gets out of the car, sends mom and brother into the house, and tells them to lock the door. He waits till they get inside, then he walks up the van, stands at the nose of the car, and just stares at the man inside. No questions, no bravado, no nothing. He just stands there and waits, intimidatingly. Now, what you need to know about my father at the time: he had a full ride scholarship for football in college, dropped out and decided it would be fun to join the military, and volunteered to go to Vietnam instead because he was bored. Spent a year on some godforsaken little island at a ranger camp. He's an intimidating man and always has been. Without being overly tall or large, he has a presence. You just don't want to fuck with him. He's now much older and somewhat overweight, but in 1977, he must have been something. Because without any words being exchanged, the man put his van into reverse and just drove away. The story doesn't end there though. The next morning it was all over the news. A man had been murdered the night before, in the housing plan my parents picked my brother up from, just a street away. A man had been shot through his living room window with a shotgun, died on the floor while the wife tried to flee, and the kids were asleep upstairs. The wife leads the man through the woods on a chase. They find her body a few hours later in the woods, the same area where my family saw the man come out. Turns out it was Edward Tourette, the serial killer.